Recently, the United States has been showing interest in Greenland. As United States-Europe relations worsen, the United States has started pushing for influence over Greenland, which it has long desired. Denmark is strongly opposing this. Today, let's take a closer look at this issue. Let's get started. On December 22, President Trump named Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry as special envoy to Greenland via Truth Social. He also said that Governor Landry understands how important Greenland is to United States national security and that he will greatly advance America's interests for the safety, security, and survival of its allies and the world. Landry lacks diplomatic experience, but is seen as a leading pro-Trump figure in the United States. Some interpret President Trump's appointment of a special envoy to Greenland as an attempt by the United States to gain control over Greenland. It is often interpreted as a continuation of the trend since the start of his second term, where he has openly expressed his intention to incorporate Greenland as United States territory. On the 22nd, after announcing the United States Navy shipbuilding plan, President Trump told reporters the United States needs Greenland for national security, not minerals, when asked about annexing Greenland. He also emphasized that along the coast of Greenland, there are Russian and Chinese ships everywhere, and for national security, we need to have it. We need to pay close attention to China, which President Trump mentioned. The reason the United States is rushing so much on the Greenland issue cannot be explained by Russia alone. There is one more real variable, and that is China. China has already long defined the Arctic as its own strategic space, and in official documents, it refers to itself as a near-Arctic state. The reason a country with no Arctic territory or coastline insists on using such expressions is clear. It's because they are declaring their intention to make the Arctic no longer the exclusive domain of certain countries, but a global strategic space. China sees the Arctic as a key model where future logistics, resources, and military balance will all be intertwined. China's Arctic strategy is directly connected to the Belt and Road Initiative. China knows better than anyone that the existing sea routes passing through the South China Sea and heading to India and Europe can be blocked at any time by the United States and its allies. The Arctic route is emerging as an alternative because melting ice shortens the Asia-Europe journey and offers a way to bypass bottlenecks like the Suez Canal and Malacca Strait. China sees the Arctic route as more than a new path, it's a strategic way to bypass maritime blockades. That's why China calls the Arctic route the Ice Silk Road and is trying to incorporate it as the northern axis of the Belt and Road Initiative. In this process, Greenland is a crucial point because it is at the center of the Arctic route and is a place where both route monitoring and securing key resources are possible at the same time. China previously sought involvement in Greenland's airport projects and showed strong interest in rare earths and mining. Notably, the airport project was more than just civilian infrastructure. A long-distance runway can be adapted for military use and serve as a base for satellite monitoring and air operations. This is exactly why the Danish government directly intervened to block the participation of Chinese companies. On the surface, it was due to security concerns, but in reality, it was a measure to prevent China from entering the Arctic. The United States is watching this trend more closely than anyone else. Russia already has many military bases in the Arctic. If China invests capital and infrastructure there, the United States will lose control over the region. In particular, China has used a strategy of leading with capital and investment rather than military force, and once it enters, it does not easily withdraw. Taking over ports, airports, mines, and communication infrastructure to expand political influence has already occurred in Africa, the Middle East, and Southeast Asia. The United States sees Greenland as a potential test site for China to try this strategy in the Arctic. That's why the United States sees Greenland not just as a remote area or a strategic outpost, but as the front line of the United States-China power competition. The reason the United States is particularly sensitive about the Greenland issue is because of the sense of crisis that if they lose control of this region, the leadership of the entire Arctic could tilt toward China. This isn't President Trump's first attempt to acquire Greenland. In his first term, he also tried to buy Greenland, but both Denmark and Greenland rejected the United States proposal. Even after re-election, President Trudeau has repeatedly voiced his wish to incorporate Greenland into the United States for security, expressing willingness to use military force if needed. In August, it was confirmed that at least 3 Americans conducted organized influence operations in Greenland to sway public opinion for political and military reasons. It has also been reported that they compiled a list of Greenland residents who are friendly to the United States and collected the names of people who oppose President Trudeau. Naturally, when the United States acted this way, it caused an uproar in Denmark and Europe. Mette Frederiksen, Denmark's prime minister, and Jens Frederik Nielsen, Greenland's prime minister, jointly stated that borders and sovereignty follow international law, and no country can annex another citing security. They strongly opposed the move. Denmark also summoned the United States ambassador to protest. Ursula von der Leyen, president of the European Commission, posted on X that territorial integrity and sovereignty are key to international law and vital for all countries, not just the European Union. She voiced full support for the people of Denmark and Greenland. Denmark even went so far as to designate the United States as a potential security threat. The Danish government authorities judged that the pressure from the United States had gone beyond mere diplomatic rhetoric. A recent Danish Defense Intelligence Service report says the United States has used economic and military pressure to influence allies' decisions. And in the 2025 Intelligence Outlook report released in Denmark, the United States was also listed as a potential security threat. The report explained that the United States is increasingly prioritizing its own interests and is now using its economic and technological superiority as a means of power, which also applies to its allies and partners. The European Union seemed to back Denmark's position on this. Possibly feeling threatened, Greenland's parliament voted in November to restrict foreign real estate ownership, passing the bill. The bill allows only non-Danish nationals and foreign companies to acquire real estate or land use rights in Greenland if they have permanent residency or have paid all Greenland taxes for the past 2 years. The background for the passage of this bill was, once again, due to the United States' moves to acquire Greenland. The conflict over Greenland is testing trust between the United States and its European allies. If the Trump administration keeps pushing annexation with special envoys, it could seriously affect NATO cohesion. There's one more thing we need to look at here, and that's the internal political situation in Greenland. Greenland is an autonomous territory of Denmark, but there has long been a political faction advocating for independence. There is a movement to break away from Denmark completely and become an independent country. The main issue post-independence is survival, as the population is under 60,000 and the economy is tiny. Support from powerful foreign countries can be tempting in this situation, and the United States knows this. Even if they don't attempt direct annexation, it's entirely possible to indirectly support groups seeking independence and expand their influence. The moment Greenland separates from Denmark, the United States' justification for involvement becomes much greater. The Greenland issue is now so unstable that one internal decision could change everything, not just external power struggles. So why is President Trump targeting Greenland? Actually, the biggest reason is probably global warming, as you may already know. The Arctic Ocean offers vast opportunities. As global warming opens new sea routes, projecting influence there is increasingly important. Dominance in the Arctic promises significant rewards. Ship traffic in the Arctic has risen 37% in the past decade, indicating that Arctic sea routes are steadily opening up. Above all, Greenland is known to be rich not only in oil, but also in natural resources, including rare earth minerals essential for semiconductor manufacturing. In fact, 43 out of the 50 types of rare earths essential for electric vehicle production are found there. The value is about 1,450 quadrillion won. Greenland has the third largest oil and natural gas reserves in the Arctic. It's also important to the United States because it's closer to New York than Copenhagen, Denmark's capital. It's an important place for United States security, especially if the United States were to take control of Greenland. It's only about 3,600 kilometers away from Moscow, the capital of Russia, so by deploying ballistic missiles or strategic bombers there, the United States could keep Russia in check. Greenland is likely highly desired by the United States because it's vital for Arctic routes, can monitor Russia, and is resource-rich. So then, how valuable is Greenland? In 2019, the Washington Post estimated the Greenland's potential value to be around 2,500 trillion won. Notably, the World Bank reported Greenland's 2021 gross domestic product as 4.6 trillion won. Greenland's value may vary based on how much and why the United States wants it. President Trump wasn't the first United States president interested in Greenland. Past United States presidents Andrew Johnson and Harry Truman also attempted to buy Greenland but failed. It's unclear if President Trump will succeed in annexing Greenland, as the United States Constitution requires Congress's approval. Wouldn't budgeting also be necessary? If Greenland is annexed, relations with Europe would collapse. And since Denmark and Greenland oppose joining the United States, I'm unsure if President Trump's effort will succeed. Because attempts to annex Greenland continue, the conflict between the United States and Denmark is likely to persist. Will the United States attempt to annex Greenland really succeed? I'm curious about your thoughts as well, so please leave a comment. That's it for this video. Thank you.